Now, Eric and his brother Brett are famous for being charlatans as well, so much so that they each deserve an episode unto themselves, but that will have to wait for another day. Here, I'm just going to highlight some idiotic things that Terry says and point out how Eric, for the most part, fails to explain precisely how idiotic they are in a way that the audience can understand. He does try to make it clear that most of what Terry says is wrong. It's simply that he remains unreasonably charitable because he places a higher premium on attracting credulous viewers to his own following than offering a firm voice of reason. That Joe decided on Eric to fact-check Terry is just another in a long string of disappointments, so I suppose we should stop being surprised at this point. But it really is sad that he couldn't ask some well-spoken mathematics or chemistry graduate student instead of continuing to platform these types. Such is life. Let's get into the chaos.
What out of the podcast that I did with Terrance really stood out with you or something that you wanted to?
Well, what I thought is, I have to be honest. I've been listening. I was not so happy with certain things that happened in the podcast. And then I started hearing the response to it. And I was much more infuriated by the response than anything I heard in the podcast, because I thought that a lot of people just used their position of greater formal education in some of these areas to be jerks and to be really dismissive and pretend that they couldn't understand things that you were saying.
This will set the tone for the conversation, that Eric is more offended by educated people correcting the insane gibberish that Terry spews than the actual insane gibberish that Terry spews. Tells you everything you need to know about who Eric is and his motivations for appearing on this program.
But they got upset that I'm talking about the foundational problems associated with mathematics that's held us back.
But I think if you think people really care about these ideas, though, what they should do is talk about the ideas.
I want to offer to you, I want to be able to show you the things that I tried to show Neil deGrasse Tyson that he would not even really take a look at and to see.
But
if
no, he did
valid.
take a look at it, right? He responded in a long video recently.
Yeah, but his response was disingenuous.
No, his response was not disingenuous. It was the most genuine, flattering, and diplomatic response imaginable to the flaming pile of crazy you threw at him. Again, denial, the only card he has. But we will come back to Neil a bit later.
I don't think Neil actually understood some of your ideas.
No, and what he forgot is when I say 1 times 1 equals 2, that's a metaphor for challenging the status quo.
Oh, it was just a metaphor, you guys.
Expanding.
Anything. Eric should be telling him that none of that means anything and refusing to move forward until Terry admits that none of it means anything.
Anytime you're urinating, a man is urinating, he sees this pattern where it's expanding and contracting. Expanding, contracting, right. That braiding behind the boat. This from that, but then let's go to the next stage of decay. The next stage of decay would be four sides. Now, what these are
How you doing, Eric?
All right, Joe.
Yeah, here we go.
It's like a pee stream from a wiener, so it's revolutionary physics. Because in the end, Eric's work is a giant turd too, just with much better turd polish. He is rejected from academia because his ideas are garbage, hence the anti-academia rants, which are responsible for his rise to popularity among the science-illiterate general public, and his acceptance by contrarian club leader Joe Rogan.
Let's talk about how Joe Rogan will destroy America. I don't mean this literally, but this is in fact a very, very serious matter that can lead to very dire consequences for the country. Please refrain from the potential to get fixated on Joe Rogan. This is not really about Joe Rogan. The problem is much larger than just one man and one podcast. But Joe Rogan is an excellent example of something that is a very dangerous threat to this country. Any of the people that exist in this greedy anything for views ecosystem hearing a video like this will simply mock the idea that Joe Rogan is a threat to America. Just some guy on some podcast. Maybe he puts out some things that are wrong, but what's the big deal? He's just one guy, which is why I say this is bigger than Joe Rogan. This is not about Joe Rogan. If Joe Rogan were to disappear today, the problem would still exist. Pandora's box has already been opened. If it's not Joe Rogan, it'll be somebody else. The other dismissive angle will be that what I'm suggesting or implying is that we need massive censorship. And they will virtue signal about censorship and freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. They will want to do everything else but to actually examine and consider what I'm about to explain. I will say one more time, this is not about Joe Rogan. This is much bigger than that. Imagine a scenario where the nation faces a new, highly contagious and deadly virus that spreads rapidly. This virus has a significantly higher mortality rate than COVID-19, and no immediate vaccine or treatment options are available. In this critical moment, the government's public health agencies and scientists issue urgent warnings and guidelines to contain the outbreak. Mandatory mask wearing. However, a prominent media personality decides to platform a celebrity with no scientific background who claims to have discovered a natural cure for the virus. This celebrity, suffering from delusions of grandeur, insists that the virus is not as dangerous as scientists claim and that their cure can prevent the disease without any need for vaccine, masks, or lockdowns. This narrative gains traction quickly because it offers a more convenient and less disruptive solution than the government's recommendations. The media personality, driven by the potential for increased views, clicks, and revenue, amplifies this misinformation. Many people are already wary of restrictions and eager for a quick fix begin to follow this advice, rejecting the official guidelines. Social media is flooded with testimonials of people claiming the cure works, even though these claims are not scientifically validated. As a result, a significant portion of the population stops adhering to the recommended safety procedures. Large gatherings resume and mask wearing declines dramatically. The virus spreads uncontrollably, overwhelming the healthcare systems and leading to a catastrophic number of deaths. The situation is further exasperated when other opportunists or opportunistic individuals, seeing the potential for profit, start promoting their own unproven remedies and theories. The public becomes increasingly confused and distrustful of official sources of information. In the chaos, essential public health messages are drowned out by the noise of misinformation. The economic impact is severe, with a high death toll and widespread illnesses. Businesses shutter and the workforce is decimated. The healthcare systems collapse under the strain, unable to care for the sick and dying. Social unrest grows as people become desperate and fearful. In this hypothetical scenario, the nation's vulnerability is exploited by foreign adversaries who use the confusion and chaos to launch cyber attacks, disrupt critical infrastructure, and spread further disinformation. The country's ability to respond to these threats is hampered by the ongoing public health crisis. Ultimately, the combination of a deadly virus, widespread misinformation, and a weakened societal structure leads to the collapse of essential services, economic turmoil, and a breakdown in social order. The nation, once a global leader, is left in ruins, illustrating how the pursuit of views, clicks, and engagement over truth and responsibility can have dire, far-reaching consequences. Now, very dishonest and bad faith actors hearing this scenario will quickly try to distract and deflect. This is what they do. What they will say is that more is better. We don't want people to be afraid to have conversations about things because we can't always trust what we're being told by the official sources. And the official sources could lead us over a cliff. And if people are afraid to speak their minds, to speak out and say something doesn't sound right, then that in itself can lead to the collapse of society. We need to have a free exchange of ideas. That is the lame, manipulative statement that they'll make. But here's the reality. What we are seeing is not a good faith exchange of ideas. This is greedy, savage, selfish individuals who will try to monetize the demise of this country, blinded by their quest for attention and monetary gains. Will betray this country in a heartbeat in their selfish quests. We absolutely encourage maximum discussion, maximum communication. We don't want to rely on the mainstream sources, because if they get it wrong, we want for others to be able to identify these things and correct them. But what we don't want is bad faith, dishonest actors with really loud megaphones, putting a lot of noise into the discussions, into valid discussions. You have valid people, serious people, having serious, honest discussions. And their voices are not as loud as people who have platforms that get multi-million views per video, easily drowning out everybody else. Yes, we want to maximize discussion and maximize the conversation, and we want to hear all good faith ideas. But what we don't want is to have large platforms which amplify bad faith ideas, right? We absolutely encourage people who might be wrong, but who are making a good faith effort to explain something, to identify something that they see wrong. We want that. What we don't want is greedy, savage opportunists who will knowingly spread misinformation for financial gain, even at the risk of destroying the great empire, the United States of America. The country whose success enables them to have these opportunities in the first place, to make the millions of dollars that they make by doing anything for views, pushing anything that gets traction, whatever sticks. Terrance is obviously a lunatic. Even Joe Rogan, in the first video he posted, recognized that there was a picture that Terrance was showing. He was trying to say that there were some structures that were evidence of intelligent life on the moon or something like that. There were these triangular structures. Joe Rogan quickly commented that those are arrows. There were graphics in the image highlighting certain features in the picture. Do you think that Joe Rogan saw that red flag and started to recognize that he was talking to an idiot? No. He continues to put this guy on. He brought him back on, and even though he brings on this crack to go and challenge him, and he does challenge him here and there a few times, the overall effect of bringing on Terrance again is, in the minds of many of Joe Rogan's viewers, that there is something to what Terrance is talking about. That he's perhaps being misunderstood. He's definitely being disrespected by these establishment people who don't want to be challenged. Greed combined with social media temptations, in my view, is one of the greatest threats to this country. Where does it end? Is there ever a point where these dishonest actors get to a point where they think it's too far? It's too great a risk. No views are worth the potential damage of what I'm doing. I don't see a line. I can't imagine that these people have a line because they are drunk with greed for the love of money is the root of all evil. Like a cancer, it spreads exponentially and gets worse and worse. Difficult is it to identify a path to reverse its effects on the body. What is the cure for this amazing thing that we call social media that has so much great potential, but like a double-edged sword, it also has tremendous risk to us all? This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.